Addison Barger won Player of the Week for the Buffalo Bisons, and he's been swinging a hot bat ever since coming off the injured list. We've seen what Davis Schneider could do once he came up to the major leagues. He's been an instant force in that lineup for the Toronto Blue Jays, and Santiago Espinal has really been struggling in the role that he's been occupying for the Jays. So there's a possibility that Barger may be coming up in place of Espinal. So we'll break that down and much more in this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And Nick, Espinal's struggles have really been overblown in the past couple of weeks here. He's not getting everyday playing time. He's not necessarily costing the Blue Jays any games, but right now you can't run him out there in the middle of a playoff race. And he's just not cutting it at the big league level. So the Blue Jays have some options. They have a lot of middle infield depth down in the minor leagues. And I suspect that when Bo Bichette comes back, they won't necessarily need Santiago Espinal to be playing at all at the major league level. So Addison Barger could be a legitimate candidate to come up in place of him soon.
Yeah, the Jays have a pretty big decision to make. And like you said, with David Schneider's kind of rise to the big leagues, it makes, myself and other Jays fans think, why can't Addison Barger come up and do the same thing? So we'll break into that now in a second. Before we do, make sure to hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 8,000. And this all kind of stemmed from Peter. You sent me this. Addison Barger won Player of the Week with the Bisons. You can see he went 4 for 5 or 4 hits, 5 games. OPS over 1100. Ever since the injury took him out and he's returned, he has been absolutely dominant. His OPS has been skyrocketing. His power has been skyrocketing. His exit velocities have been off the charts. And we saw it in spring training, how good of a swing he has, how much of an impact he can have against big league pitchers, albeit it was spring training. But seeing what Davis Schneider is doing, albeit again in a short sample size, but Espinal is a guy who is losing playing time to Davis Schneider, of course, Whit Merrifield, and now Kevin Biggio, who has the benefit of being able to hit from the left-handed side and being able to play the outfield as well as a big thing for Biggio. I don't think he's going anywhere. If they want to call Addison Barger up, they might have to send down Espinal to at least get him some regular playing time because that's something he hasn't had, and he needs to get his swing back.
I think we could both agree, Nick, that Biggio and Espinal are two of the last guys on the roster to pick up playing time. And in that race that we're talking about there, Biggio has blown Espinal out of the water. He's been productive at the plate. He's been playing great defense, and he single-handedly carried the Jays to victory last night against the Cleveland Guardians. Now, we're not going to base our opinions off of one game for Kevin Biggio, but he's been a steady a productive player for the better part of 2 months now. So I don't think he's going anywhere. He's got great versatility. He can play a bunch of positions. But Espinal, I mean, this has been like a slow climb down. He's fallen out of grace with the Toronto Blue Jays fan base for good reason. I mean, he hasn't had a good season. His defense is his calling card, and it hasn't been present for this year, for the entire season. He was an all-star last year. He was great in 2021 playing third base, and he's been great in every role that the Jays have asked him to play in. But now he just hasn't adjusted. He's hit the bench. He doesn't know how to play in a part-time role, and I'd like to see him regain some confidence because I believe he could be a valuable piece at the major league level, but he won't gain any confidence just riding the pine 7 days a week. So I'd like to see him get sent down, play every day, and lead the Buffalo Bisons as a vocal leader and just as a leader by example as well.
Yeah, and it all kind of started last season, after the All-Star break, whenever he started to get a bit less playing time, his confidence probably got shook a little bit, and all kind of stems into this year with, some really bad exit velocities. And the big thing here is he never was a big exit velocity guy or, necessarily the best hitter. His outs above average and his defense has completely fallen off a cliff, and whether that's because it's gotten to his head or whatnot, the limited playing time I'm sure plays a factor in it. But when you have guys like Kevin Biggio who provide significantly more versatility, being able to play the outfield, as well as significantly more power than Santiago Espinal and hits from the left side, Espinal took the job over and took it running. And looking at, Addison Barger here, looking at his tools according to some prospect reports, he's plus power, plus raw power. His hit tool still has some, things left to be desired, but he has the opportunity to be a very, very good hitter in the major leagues, and I think that he's going to be our starting infielder, or he's been playing outfield a lot too next year. That's Addison Barger, but Espinal needs to go down, and if he's not going to get a lot of playing time or regular playing time, any playing time at all at this point with the Blue Jays, especially with David Schneider staying up, may as well send him down. There's no reason whatsoever to have him on the Blue Jays big league roster with the way his defense has been.
Yeah, Nick, why don't you pop up that screenshot for me one more time that shows the prospect rankings? So, Addison Barger, if you look at MLB.com, he is the sixth ranked prospect for the Toronto Blue Jays, and he's not even in the top 100. But for all you advanced stats fans over there, Fangraphs does a great job, and they rank prospects with a different system on their advanced metrics, on their exit velocities, and just on how they would like progress into being major league players. Addison Barger is the 39th ranked prospect in all of baseball, and he's the second best prospect in the Blue Jays farm system. Now, this is the same system that said Aurelvis Martinez was a top five prospect in the major leagues. And it's looking like that may be the case because he's been absolutely raking for AAA and for AA as well after his rough start to the season there. So they're very high on Addison Barger. We've been very high on him for a long time, Nick. We were making videos before Jays fans even knew who he was. So we truly believe that he can be special and have a big impact for this team. And why not just start the clock early? Why not give him a chance right now and see what he can do? Now, the only downfall I would see to that is that maybe he comes up and he just doesn't get enough playing time to the point where he's not developing and he's just rotting on the bench, which is not something that you want because he is someone that's going to play a valuable role starting next season. So maybe the Jays look at it that way, and the 26th man on the team doesn't necessarily play too often, but I'd just love to see him get a chance and see him swing the bat against this major league pitching.
Yeah, I think that would be the big reason would be lack of playing time. You don't worry with that as much with a guy like Davis Schneider who, isn't really, or at least wasn't a top prospect. He's kind of just having a very, very good run this season, and he could turn in and probably will be a good regular, MLB player. But Addison Barger has the chance to be something very, very special, and you don't want to rush prospects like that, or at least have them. And he's younger, of course, than Davis Schneider as well. But looking at his stats here, what a year he's kind of having. And, the numbers don't really jump out at you this season necessarily with a 745 OPS, but since his injury, he's been above an 800 OPS. You saw in the Player of the Week thing, 1100 OPS, and he dominated last year in AA and AAA combined. You can look at that. 900 plus OPS, 1100 OPS in limited games there. So he has the tools, and you mentioned it. Looking at the top right there, 39th overall ranked prospect according to Fangraphs, and who knows how Addison Barger will do in the major leagues. It's always hard to project prospects, but I think that he's going to make an impact very soon alongside Aurelvis Martinez. And it just kind of begs the question of when the Jays are going to send Espinal down. And even if you send him down for someone that's not Addison Barger, one of the high-end prospects, I think he needs to go down anyway and just get some reps down there so that way maybe he can be a September recall up with his head back in the game. Because we know he has major league, potential and has the capability to do that. It's just right now he's completely lost. Maybe something similar to we did with Lourdes Gurriel Jr. way back in the day.
Yeah, and when you look at Addison Barger, it's obviously the tools that really stand out to you. And I believe him and Ricky Tiedemann have the best tools in the Toronto Blue Jays organization when it comes to prospects. And if you look at his 2022 season, sorry, he was the best hitter not only in in the AA or AAA or wherever he played. He was the best hitter in the Jays system last year when you look at OPS and just overall production that he had. Obviously, the strikeouts are still a big problem. He's got a couple of holes in his swing, but when you look at the potential compared to Espinal, he's someone that could definitely offer you a little bit more in that department. So I would give him a chance. Maybe the Jays just don't want to rush him, but having that exciting prospect in your backyard is super exciting.
Yeah, and especially when Espinal, again, is not giving you anything on the defensive end. He's kind of a black hole in all fronts right now. He's had a couple big hits, but other than that, bring up a guy like Addison Barger who's been destroying minor league pitching lately and last year could be very, very good. But let us know what your thoughts are on that in the comment section below. I think they're going to have some tough decisions to make, not only with, Santiago Espinal, but with Chad Green coming back and some other roster moves. They're going to have to make a decision between sending someone in the bullpen down. Jay Jackson might be the guy who gets the short end of the stick, but he's been dominant, or maybe Genesis Cabrera. Maybe that's for another video, but a lot of tough decisions coming up for Ross Atkins and the staff, and hopefully the Jays can continue their win streak today to make it a significantly, rush for the playoffs, because they're wild card. They're now 3 games up, so that's very, very big. But thank you guys for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.